Hello and welcome back to another episode of the GallowgateShots FPL Show. I am Matthew and joined with me again is Dan. How are we doing, mate? You all right?
Spot on, mate. A little tired tonight. Late one after Monday Night Football.
Oh, mate, yeah. Was that the old Callum Wilson you've just pulled out the bag?
Absolutely.
Why not? Why not? It is a Newcastle United podcast after all. So game week 1 has literally just finished, mate, about 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago.
Yep.
So what we've decided to do last year, we decided to spend about like 20 minutes complaining and moaning about how terrible we were doing. Rather than kind of talk about the game week in too much detail, we're going to just save it. Like, we're just going to mention our score and what the current rank is. If we've got a game week rank of about 500k or better, we'll mention it because that classifies as having a canny above average week. And if we've got like a game week rank of below 5 million, we'll mention it then just to talk about how absolutely dire it was. But otherwise, we'll just have a little nod to it. It happened. This is what we got. And then we'll talk about all the juicy stuff that we want to talk about, as Jacob Murphy would say, and kind of just chat about what's going to be coming ahead. Sound good?
That was the people at home saying, yes, it sounds good. It's better than us not caring about your teams and having to listen through it.
I mean, hey, if you want to pop a comment in the comments and say how you did or whether you've done better than us, which is potentially likely in my case, not to go into too much detail, but we'll have a little beef in the comments anyway. So this week I have gotten off to a slightly average start, 65 points. I'm not miles behind, but I'm definitely not with the pack to start with. 4.1 million rank. How did you do, mate?
74 points, 1.870, something like that. So 1,870 something is my rank. I was under a million until this Man United game. Man United, the luckiest team in the world. Wolves robbed of a pen. Every shot straight at the goalkeeper. So I think their goalkeeper got 9 points tonight.
Onana has 9 points.
Fucking 9 points. Every shot was just, I would have saved them.
And do you know what's even worse, mate? So we spent, like, we had a whole segment where we talked about, like, doing team reveals and that. And do you know what? Honestly, if I'd kept the team that I said that I was going to have on the last episode we did, I'd probably be far better off. I don't want to even do the maths. But Onana's just deciding to go for Pickford and rotate with Turner instead of just sticking with Onana.
I did try to make a fair warning to anyone going for Everton defence. I tried to make a fair, clear, concise warning to just not do it.
You did, and I didn't listen. So I was
Did you get rid of the, just really quickly, did you get rid of that double Man United midfield that I told you to do as well?
No, I didn't. So I only had one. I had Rashford. But I had...
You had Rashford and Bruno when we did with drafts. You had them both.
Oh, yeah, so I had Rashford, but then I ended up with Havertz, which I already had. But then actually I ended up with Jota in the end. So I had a punt on Jota, which, I mean, I thought they might have had a bit more...
You'll be all right for next Chelsea. Week, Jota, I think you'll be all right for next week.
As long as Darwin stays firmly on the bench, I'm all right.
Yeah, it's not a one-week game, Matt.
Well, this is the thing. The team that I made is a 5. I kind of had it with 5 game weeks in mind. A lot of teams out there have already played a chip. A lot of others have already played a chip. They've made a team.
I've seen being used a lot.
And they've even they've got a team which looked good for game week 1 without looking ahead. A lot of them. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but if you're above us,
they're all scum.
You are worse than shit. So. If we look ahead, mate, few talking points because there was a few like benching headaches, certain picks that kind of we've made, or that people have had popular picks. They've not turned out to be great, or maybe haven't turned out great yet. First one, mate, Gabriel. We'll try and keep it really brief. He was benched. I didn't really see it coming. Early team news suggested it.
This is where you should have been on Twitter. And I should have been on Twitter. So I was, as the members of the GallowgateShots chat know. So it's one benefit of becoming a member. You know about my personal life. I was best man in a wedding on Friday. So I missed the Twitter news about John Stones and I missed it about Gabriel. but it was on people's deadline streams that was going to happen. So if I'd been paying attention, I would have went straight Stones to Akanji, Gabriel to Saliba, all the same money, easy done. I had way more points. So people did get news of it. Thankfully, Timber, I know this is a horrible thing to say, sorry, not thankfully. Timber looks injured, which is very sad for him. I'm sorry,
Yes.
I didn't mean it that way. But for Gabriel owners, as part of this little game where you choose little T-shirts worth a certain amount of money, it might be better news for Gabriel. Just with Timber being the left side, I just cannot see. I just kind of see like Tommy Asu coming in and playing left-sided centre back, or sit like Saliba and Ben White both playing there. So I don't think it worked anyway against Forest. I don't think Thomas Partey looked like he could play right back at all, which brings me no greater satisfaction given the fact that he's a dirty, horrible man. But
Allegedly.
we've seen the texts. So yeah, I don't think it works anyway. I'm willing to keep him for another week for the game against Crystal Palace away. If he doesn't play that, he's straight out my team. I'll take a hit to get him out if I need to, but he's got one more week to see if he can get a game, because I'm not paying 5. Is he 5? 5? He's 5, isn't he?
He's
5 million. I'm not paying 5 million for a player that isn't playing. It's absolutely worthless.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, obviously, I mean, one of the perks that I had in my team was that I kept 0.5 million in the bank. So I could realistically get up to Reece James if I wanted, or even downgrade Rico Henry, who was absolutely amazing and has a decent run of fixtures. But I think the best advice we could probably give in this episode, and it'll be apparent all the way through, save that transfer no matter what your team is looking like. Save that transfer, because information is key. And if you have an extra week of data, eye test, whatever you want to call it, you'll have two transfers which are probably going to be more valuable to you than spunking it on somebody and getting a couple extra points next week. Anyway, that brings us nicely on. Should I get rid of Havertz right now?
Yes. They shouldn't have had him in the first place. No, obviously you can't. Like, you can't say, oh, whatever you do, roll a transfer and then get rid of him. Like, you've made that bet for yourself, Matt. You keep him. You can come off the bench and score, but he's not playing, is he?
Do you know who I blame? I blame Eddie Nketiah
for scoring,
just being alive,
just being alive.
In the team.
Well, if anything, we should blame his mother and father.
Correct. If his mother and father hadn't have conceived him, Havertz would have had a hat-trick that game, and he wouldn't have been playing incredibly deep.
He looked shit.
Yeah, and this is me thinking, mate, to be honest. So I'm going to have to hold him this week, I think, but I'm already eyeing up James Maddison because Tottenham have got a very good little run of fixtures after they play Man U next week. So essentially, Havertz is going to either get upgraded to an 8 million midfielder somewhere, or he's going to become James Maddison, because he can't stay in my team if he's playing that shit, and he's playing like miles away from the box, because he's not worth having. Brings us nicely then onto the next point, which is John Stones. You mentioned him before. Is he out the team, or was he just rested for the Super Cup, or what? What are you doing with John Stones? Because you own him, don't you?
He had a hip injury.
Right.
Either way, so at the minute, again, I'm happy to keep him in my team because they do have the Super Cup game, which I cannot see him playing. I can't see him being risked for that. I think he'll play against us, but he'll be benched for me anyway. He was always part of the plan to be benched for me. It was always my plan to have next week a Estupiñán against Wolves, Gabriel against Palace, Chilwell against West Ham. Now, where I am at risk is because if Gabriel doesn't play, and then I've got Stones playing and he might not play, and then I've got Baldock, who I think picked up a little injury at the weekend. There were certain rumours circulating from Sheffield United fans. He's not yellow flagged yet. I mean, Forest away is a bit of a middle fixture. Like, I think Sheffield United still conceding that game. I really don't want to be trying to utilise my 4 million bench for a defender this much. It's really thrown a spanner in the works that Gabriel dropping he got dropped. and then the Stones injury, it makes us feel a lot less certain. So if we do get news that either Stones, well, maybe that Gabriel isn't playing again, I will have to make the transfer and take out Gabriel. And I'll probably just put in like for like with Saliba, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because there's those players I would argue were the ones that would like Gabriel and Stones would people consider were the most nailed to start the season. Probably the best in terms of the price point and the most nailed for minutes, and they both didn't start game week 1. FPL is back. So next, we've got Haaland, who plays Newcastle. Tough fixture, especially how unbelievable we were. If you're somebody like, I don't know, a genius out of the two of us who might have already put some Liverpool assets in their team already with this fixture in mind, if you were one of those amazing people, would you have the audacity to captain said Liverpool asset over Haaland this week?
Probably. But Bournemouth looked all right at the weekend.
They
But
did. They did.
I still don't fancy them against Liverpool. I see Bournemouth scoring against them, but I think Liverpool also score more than they do. I currently have Gakpo as my captain.
Do you now?
That was when I thought they were getting Lavia, so I thought he'd get pushed up front. It is likely now that I think Jota's just going to play up front and Gakpo's now going to be in midfield, and I'm not sure if I fancy that captaincy. So I might just actually have to go back to Haaland, which I don't like. I don't like that move at all, captain and Haaland against Newcastle. Other than that, I don't really like any of my picks for captaincy unless I win something mental early doors, which would be such a risk, like going for Ben Chilwell against West Ham. But like that is such a risk.
I like it. I mean, I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. Made us feel a little bit tingly inside thinking about it.
It's just like it's hard because for me, I've said this season, just captain Haaland at home, doesn't matter who he's playing, captain Haaland at home. And then if you want to take a chance when Man City play away, look at the fixtures, see who they're playing before, because he still got plenty of returns last season away, but just not to the levels that he was getting them at home in terms of double-digit hauls and the rest of it. I don't know. I just think we're really good.
Yeah, I would have a tendency to agree.
They've got the Super Cup. I don't think they looked very good against Burnley, Man City.
No.
They didn't look bad, but I don't think they looked great.
I think on the flip side, though, like you mentioned, Bournemouth looked decent. I was looking at a few stats, and in terms of like XGC, they were probably the 4th best team out of everybody. I mean, this was before Wolves Man United kicked off.
Yeah, when so Wolves probably quadrupled that.
Yeah,
so done sod all with it.
I don't know where I don't know where they sit now, but Bournemouth actually conceded very few chances. Okay, who did they play again? Remind me.
West Ham.
Okay.
It was West Ham West Ham at home, so in Bournemouth, I believe, is where they played. So, it was a favourable fixture for Bournemouth.
Yeah.
But Bournemouth still conceded. So, you still fancy Liverpool to get a result there.
Yeah.
Because Liverpool are still way better than West Ham. It's just, the problem with Liverpool is it's like, if you don't have Salah, it's really hard to pick which one you'd captain, because Salah's the most blatantly obvious captaincy pick out of the lot of them. Gakpo is really defensive. I don't like him at all in my team now because I was fully expecting them to have bought a hold of midfield. I thought they had Casado, then I thought they had Lavia. So I'm like, yeah, this is fine. Eventually they'll be moved up. But they've bottled the pair of them. And now I'm stuck with Gakpo. And there's 3 or 4 players in my team now that I really don't like Stones, Gakpo, and Gabriel. I don't like the 3 of them in my team at all. So I am going to wait as late as possible before I make a transfer. But I could make one.
Don't do it.
Do it. Might take a minus. Convinced a lad at work today plays wildcard.
That's what you've got to do in those work leagues, right? Anybody
Not
you
be
know.
fair, he needed to use it. His team was awful. He needed to use it.
I know, yeah, but I mean, that's not the point I'm trying to make here. You tell your friends in the work league the team's terrible, make them play the wild card, or get them, oh, that looks like a good bench boost this week.
Yeah. More
Start
top tips from Dark
in there,
Matt.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, if you've got a money league or a work league, but you're not allowed money leagues, but because I wouldn't condone anything like that. But if you
Yeah,
do
post
things like that,
if you've got an FPL WhatsApp, post like fake XG stats.
I mean, yeah, fake XG stats, just make stuff up. Just like say,
Yeah.
oh, West Ham have just signed a striker, like he was like worth 100 million, scored about 50 goals in Austrian league last year. Like, you know what I mean? Just keep them
Make
guessing.
things just lie, brazenly lie.
Right, which we'll move on. Basically, I think I might captain Jota this week. Is my
I
thinking.
think that's a really good shout. If I had Jota, I'd captain him. There you go. There's my hot take.
I'm in the same boat as you. Like, effectively, if Liverpool had signed a defensive midfielder, I feel like that's going to unlock their attacking potential a bit more. Whereas I think Jota will start and be a lot of a presser defensive work. I mean, it's Bournemouth, but I do think Jota isn't exactly as forward as what I think he is, even though he's playing centrally. But we'll see. I'll see how I feel because I might just bottle it. And
Yeah,
thing is, if I don't captain Haaland and he scores against her, that's like double the amount of gut punch, isn't it?
It is. That's the thing. I'm half tempted to captain Haaland just so that if he does score, I get the points. If he doesn't, I'm buzzing.
That's it. That's the point. I think that's probably what we should
Plenty
end
of
it
game
on.
weeks after this to earn your points back.
100%. Now, speaking of points, Isak got loads of them and was the first player to rise in price. Now, that is like typical FPL groupthink. Like the Alexander Isak, who plays Manchester City next, is the first player to rise in price this season. Now, it's justified, don't get me wrong. It's just hilarious that we play Man City next. And the price rises come so quick.
I think he's a great buy for people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have the money to get to him now because he's went up 0.1, but I'd buy him. I think we score a couple against Man City, and I think he gets at least one. I think we batter Liverpool at home without a 6. I think we absolutely run riot. And Isak's getting a goal in that game. I think he's Brighton away. He might struggle a bit in that one, maybe, but they play a high line. Yeah, he's just one of them players that you can stick him in your team and leave him there forever. I think obviously the issue is going to be looking at it later on with Champions League football. So it might be a case of, do you have him on your wild card? But even with just 60 odd minutes every game, I back him to score a goal, which is all I need for 7.6 million now. If he gets a goal, I believe he gets at least 2 bonus points, at least. So he's on around about a point per million, which you don't need anywhere near that. In this game, it's like 0.65, 0.7 points per million on average or something.
Yeah.
There's not a single team that I don't back him against to score a goal. And he's on pens when Wilson isn't on the pitch. So against Man City, sorry, I'd love to have him. I think he's going to score against them.
It's one of those where, again, like we'll come full circle again. If you're sitting there and you've got no issues, you don't need to buy him just yet. Like the reason you've got the players that you've got in your team at the moment is because you've thought about them and you thought they were good picks. So the chances are they're going to get a goal or something. Like I'm sitting here with Watkins against Everton at home,
class,
and Jackson against West Ham away, and then he's got Luton at home. Now, am I disappointed that they didn't get a goal? Absolutely, but I'm not going to be transferring them out. I mean, trust us, I'm tempted to go for Isak. I could quite easily get up to, or I could just get Isak straight away for Watkins. But I don't think Villa are going to be that bad every week. But anyway, I'll buy Isak, but don't rush to get him just yet. I don't think. I think that's everything we wanted to get through in terms of talking points this week, wasn't it?
Would you have any other Newcastle players? Would you buy
Ooh.
Harvey Barnes? Would you buy Tonali after he's? I think Tonali's the example. I know that people haven't quite done it yet. Tonali would be the example of people jumping on to buy because he's got a goal and assist. Did he get a goal and assist?
Surprised. Yeah,
He's got a goal.
No goal, but he assisted the assist.
He assisted the assist twice, didn't he? Yeah, he looks like the type of player that people would like. Rodri's on a price rise soon. Like I feel Tonali's in that boat. But like, would you go for Gordon? Would you go for Barnes? Would you go for any Newcastle defenders now that you've seen us play?
Do you know what? It's minutes. I think we're going to miss out on so many good opportunities this year because of fears of minutes. Chances are Gordon at 5.5 million, amazing value. Can't guarantee he's going to start because you've got Harvey Barnes there now, and both of them had an absolutely amazing game. So it's not like one's played bad, so you know that the other one's going to be starting next week. In all likelihood, I reckon Gordon's going to start again. And imagine Harvey Barnes against a tired Manchester City high line. Like, it's just exactly the same as what he was doing to Villa. He's going to get in behind every single time. Especially because
Harvey Barnes for 6.5.
Is he 6.5? I thought he was 7.5.
He's 6.5.
Oh, mate.
Like he's in Boomo price.
Oh, that is tempting, to be fair. I think Harvey Barnes could be one where I don't think he's going to continue starting yet, but I think he will.
I just think he's going to come off the bench and batter teams. I just think he's going to come off the bench and just batter them like he did because he could have had another. He should have had another assist. Put on a play for Wilson, 100%. And especially if it's him and Wilson coming on together, you back them both. You back them both to score. I don't think you can have Callum Wilson coming off the bench for a 5-pointer every week for 8 million. I just don't think that's feasible. You'd much rather just go for Isak at 7.6 and get the extra minutes. But Barnes at 6.5, I think is an unbelievable. Like, I know it's so ballsy because he's not going to play. Like, he's going to come off the bench. You're really risking it, but I just like it. I feel like fortune favours the brave, Matt. I feel like he's going to be like a Joe Willock. Do you remember when Joe Willock went on that runner scoring 7 goals in a row and 5 of them were off the bench or something like that?
Hey, do you know what? I hope you're right. I really do. I just can't. I can't bring myself. Like, the laws of FPL just dictate that you don't bring players in.
The laws of FPL.
Like, you don't bring players in who are going to get 30 minutes like at a time. I do think he's going to be a game changer. He's going to be similar to Wilson. I think when Wilson was just coming on and like getting a goal, like back end of last year.
Yeah,
I think essentially, if we want to change the game against tired legs, Harvey Barnes is just going to come on and literally like cause defenders absolute nightmares. But yeah, I think just off the, like, I think Trippier could count himself a bit unlucky that we've scored 5 goals and not have any sort of contribution.
He looked like ever getting an assist though, did he?
No, but again, like if you had Trippier in your team is what I'm trying to say. Like, if you're looking at that without watching the game. But no, I think Isak and Barnes are probably the two to have. If you want to say next week, if you're going to roll a transfer this week and then make a couple of transfers next week, I think Anthony Gordon's probably a decent enabler at 5.5, I would say.
Especially, I just think see him getting assists only, which isn't bad for 5.5 million.
Yeah. I just think we're going to score. I think we're going to score hatful every week, but based on the way we're playing.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think if you've got one of Harvey Barnes, Isak, or Gordon in your team, I think more often than not, you're going to come away with at least one attack and return because of the amount of the actual amount of goals that we're probably going to score.
Yeah.
Which is a nice way to kind of end that. It's nice that Newcastle assets are still relevant, even though we've got tough fixtures.
But the hardest, according to the fixture tickers, we've got the hardest start of the season of all teams. But we've no team will make it as easy as Aston Villa this season. Sure, like for the second half. First half was a really competitive game. That
It
second
was.
half was a shambles.
It was. And I can't wait to see Man City's badge get added to the Alexander Isak walking his dog meme. Bring it on. Bring it on. So that brings us on to our new game for this season. Now, instead of us sounding dead preachy and trying to say, "Ooh, we recommend getting this player in because we think he's blah blah blah," what we're going to do, we're playing a game, right, where we've got a defender. We're going to each choose a defender, a midfielder, and a forward who we think is going to score a load of points in the next game week, right? So this is a disclaimer. It's just for next game week. Bring them in and transfer them in at your own risk because they might do well one week, but they might be terrible the next. But that's not on us, right? Not on us at all. Not here to give advice. So we are going to choose a defender, midfielder, and a forward each. And it's essentially going to be like 3 aside. The winner we will discover next week when we actually see how many FPL points the 3 of those players that we chose got. And in doing so, you'll see which players have got decent fixtures next week, are doing well statistically, and could potentially be a half decent transfer in. Got it?
Got it.
That was the voice again of the people watching. I'm glad that you're doing that for us.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So, do you
quick
want to go
question,
first?
Matt. Quick question just to establish
go
one
ahead.
rule before we play. Are we allowed the same players, or when one is picked?
So I would say, as long as we've got one different player, I mean, we probably should have checked this before we started because this could be quite funny. But there's no price limit. I don't reckon. We've already said there's no price limit. I think as long as one player is different, it kind of means that there's a risk that we're not. As long as because it means there's absolutely no point if we've both got the same players, it just ruins it. But tell you what, if we end up with the same players, right? Have you got a coin or something you can flip?
Yeah, I've got some. I can flip my desk.
Right, flip your desk. So if we've got the same players, we'll do heads or tails and decide who's got to change one of their players. Right.
Got it.
We'll just edit it out or something like that as well. I mean, we'll just do away with the whole thing. Scott, sorry, mate. So my defender is Rico Henry this week.
Against Fulham.
Go on.
My defender's Ben Chilwell.
Yes, we don't have the same players. Right, nice one. Any reasons for Chilwell? He did do well.
He's ridiculously attacking, and West Ham looked a bit toothless. Required an absolute scream at us to just score against Bournemouth. In Chelsea looked good in the second half against Liverpool. So I can see him keeping a clean sheet, and I can see him getting an attack in return.
I'm proud of us. We both picked 2 decent defenders there. Rico Henry, 0.62 XA, second highest defender of all defenders for XA. And like I say, playing a Fulham team who aren't that great, really. As long as Mitrovic doesn't start, Palhinha's missing. I think they're quite a poor side. Midfield, we might have the same midfielder here, to be honest. I have gone for Mohamed Salah against Bournemouth.
I haven't.
No way. We haven't picked 3 totally different players.
I've gone for Diaby against Everton.
Ooh. Okay.
Everton are proper shit, like. Yeah, fuck Mo Salah.
Do you know what, mate? Hey, right, I'll tell you what, this could be quite tasty. Forward, I mean, I've not even written anything next to Salah. It's just bloody obvious why he's a good choice.
Yeah.
Any reasons for Diaby other than the Everton are shit?
He looked really good against us, and Everton are shit.
Fair dues. And
that's Villa at home, so I think they immediately play better, and I think they can play the high line against Everton and Neil Maupay. I think they'll be fine.
Neil Maupay. Forward, I have chosen Awoni of Nottingham Forest against Sheffield United.
That's a great pick, that, Matthew. That is a phenomenal pick. Well done. I'm going for...
Don't you dare copy.
No, I'm going for double Villa. I'm going for Watkins against Everton.
Ooh. Right, okay, so that is 3 completely different players.
3 completely different players.
That's class. I absolutely love that. So tune in next week to see. Obviously, we'll all know the scores anyway, but we'll kind of recap it and we'll see who ends up getting the most points out of them 3. It could be really close, or it could be miles and miles apart.
It's going to be interesting.
I think it will be. So, what should we talk about next? I think that's it, isn't it?
We're done, mate. I think you've got to plug some stuff.
I mean, thanks for tuning in, I guess. I reckon you should subscribe to this channel because it's not just this stuff. There's loads and loads of other great stuff too. Like
including my personal life, like finding out that I'm going to a wedding, that sort of thing, and group chats. You find out all that stuff.
So yeah, we've that, and we've got all the Smiling Faces podcast. We've got match reactions. We've got match previews. Matty does Beyond the Lines, where we talk to a guest from another kind of fan podcast for the fixture that we've got that week. We've got absolutely all sorts. We do stuff around kind of kit comparisons. Honestly, loads and loads of quality content. Obviously, if you think, based on what we've just talked about before as well, pop it in the comments who you think's going to win between me and Dan out of that 3-a-side game.
And I want to see
what you think.
I want to see your own 3-a-side teams as well.
Put it in, see who wins. And also click the notification bell and it'll let you know when there's other videos coming out as well. That's always handy to know. But thanks very much for tuning in. Much appreciated. Give it a like and see you next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye.